I deleted about 7 hours of videos a little while ago, a couple of times. I took out all my long videos, so I don't really have anything either. There's been cow, there's been birds, there's been deer. Look at that, it's rising. I can't get a good shot of it. I'm having a hard time walking. It's lopsided. And it makes it kind of hard to get around. I remember some of these rocks from last year over here, before the winter time. That one that was kind of flashy almost took last year. I left it. And now I'm not picking up hardly any rocks. There's a really nice pink rock I could have picked up a little while ago. I didn't. I'm straightening out the yard with the rocks. That's what I'm doing now. Ready for construction rocks. So, he's a lifer. He was just a hobby. It looks like Spook. Spook and I got a little closer. Brother comes in. I pet him. He goes out. Comes in. Never says anything. CX, he's a talker. Yum, 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 yum. Z, another talker. The little one, quiet. He'll sit there. Wait. It was really bugging me. I sat on a log last year. He did the same thing last year. Stared at me from a distance. Poor guy's in love. Ow, 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 ow. Well, let's see if I can get on this one. Gonna try. Last year, I had long pants. This year, I have shorts. Because when I got in here, this is the view I got. Sweet, huh? See why it was worth all the trouble? Let's see, what is this thing on the front one? Just a beautiful view sitting down on the rock. It's comfortable once I got in here. Goes on the other side of the road. Look at those trees up there. Just gorgeous. Okay, time to get out. Now, just smack myself in the eye, I guess. That was before I had the problem with the cat and the fish hook. Got my eye again. I kind of did a little damage. The ice healed. I don't notice it anymore. The sticks I'm stepping on, it's all good branches. I really don't care. My legs are not getting too cut up. It's not like, this is the worst part right here. See? I think I picked up something like that last year. And I'm out here in California Park area. I'm not picking up any rocks. See? Caught my eye. I'm just going to be so proud. It's small. See, I got scratched. Yeah, I don't feel. It didn't bleed. It didn't hurt.
Religious group or their middle school or military group, whatever it may be. So, like, I don't know if we should be extra risky at this point in time.
I think you have to be really strategic with the freebies for now, because obviously you're such a tiny company. You're financed by your parents. Sadie, what do you think?
Be strategic, then give generously.
Yeah.
One thing I really encourage you to figure out, is there a way to redesign ramps using less expensive materials? Is there a way to lower your costs? Over time there will be, because you'll be able to scale efficiencies and have better partners.
I remember that rock.
Higher volume.
The little pink
All
front
these
bud.
things are very important to consider right now while you're realizing the amazing momentum in marketing.
Absolutely, yeah, that resonates with a lot of feedback we got, because there's a lot of comments on our videos, you can imagine, good and bad, but a lot of people were, saying, I don't know what they want $50 for this, and it's like, well, shipping would cost, $60. We are actually starting to do the level base game set, where it will only be one of the two games, so, I don't know, we think we might like take the shipping out of the price and not make it in. Research says to make it in, but with our kind of like that, I don't know if it's maybe something to create a little bit differently.
You can test it.
Yeah.
Fail fast. Try, test, fail fast, try it again. There are a lot of different kinds of materials you can use that may be more premium, that look good, that are wood, for example. Just continue
We found
to take you far.
Sara Lee cheese.
Andrew Pizzulo, Ramscape, we love them. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you guys for having me. It's not be here. Good to be on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Can't keep thinking about skee ball. Did you ever play skee balls in Kayla, like Chuck E. Cheese or those kinds of places?
You know, that's something I haven't played.
Oh, that's right, you too.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Our store do, yes.
Cornhole has, yeah.
Been there a few times for
I'm a
birthdays.
hippie girl.
Huh?
So I've been there a few times for birthdays.
You were in a version of this, where all these things were, back in the day.
It's for the
And
dust
if
posture.
there was a way for you to kind of go back and give yourself some advice that you know now, that you have that little, what would you say to yourself?
I think I would say, believe in yourself to know that you can attract the very
music composed by Rumtila Bluey. It
Wow.
was edited by John Isabella and our audio engineer was Neil Rauch.
Yeah.
This hour of Planet Money and How I Built This was produced by J.C. Howard. I'm Guy Raz, and you've been listening to How I Built This.
Support for NPR comes from the station and from Hiscox, committed to helping small businesses protect their dreams. Quotes and information on customized insurance for specific risks are available at hiscox.com. Hiscox, business insurance experts. From Raymond James, a firm focused on transforming lives, businesses, and communities through tailored wealth management, banking, and capital market solutions. Disclosures at raymondjames.com. And from listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
This is CPR News, 89.5 FM KPRN Grand Junction, 88.3 FM KPRH Montrose, 88.3 FM KPYR Craig, and at CPR.org.
Support comes from Europtics, boundaries for 41 years. In Cherry Creek North, Greenwood Village, Aspen Grove, and now in Westminster. Online at Europtics.net. Europtics, the art of optics.
Okay, so a screw up is one thing. Stuff happens, that's life. You move on. Kerfuffle. So there's gonna have to be some consequences and
You want a couple
repercussions
crackers?
still.
No, thank you.
The sun will
Cookies?
rise in the
No,
morning.
thank you.
The birds will sing, right? But what happens when you run right past your typical hullabaloo into a full-on brouhaha? See, some messes aren't so easily cleaned up. Sometimes the universe has an unusual sense of humor. Somehow, at your very best efforts, you might find yourself on the joke.
I visited Deborah and Stephen Larks at their house yesterday. As soon as the storm passed on Thursday morning, they rushed out of the shelter that they'd evacuated to. They were eager to see that their house had survived. They drove across the trees and power lines.
And we came around the waterway and mixed our way through and got here, and she's here.
Their house was fine. The roof was just one shingle.
One little piece of shingle, which is just a miracle.
NPR's Adrian Zarrillo reports the Lords have lived through many hurricanes. This is the first time they evacuated. Vice President Kamala Harris is trying to reach out to Black men as the November 5th election draws closer. NPR's Jason Fuller reports. Former President Barack Obama raised this issue of He says black men are too years, like they did for him in 2008. in the Best of Seven series. It's taking place off the coast of Barcelona, Spain, known for its hurricanes and unstable seas. Also today, Italy beat Britain to win the first America's Cup for women. Organizers hope to get more women interested in sailing. I'm Nora Ron, NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation. Since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at SciSimsFoundation.org.
Support for Snap Judgment from San Francisco Bay Oakland International Airport. Offering service to 47 destinations across the USA, Hawaii, and Mexico. iFlyOAK.com.
This show is supported by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career in wealth with flexibility, great pay and benefits, and one of the country's top workplaces? Come join our growing team. Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today.
I'm just walking down the street and I know it's a bright sunny day. And I feel something hit me on the back of the head. Hey!
Ow!
On my feet appears to be a chicken bone. Chicken bone. Look around. Behind to the side to the front. Nobody. Why is it happening? Who's out here trying to hang up here, folks? I take another step and get tagged again. Hey! This time, I look up. I see him. It her looking down from the telephone wire. A crow cackling, waving its beak around in glee, finishing up the last of its scavenged chicken. Oh, this is funny to you? Not at all. Stupid bird. It doesn't knock it off. From then on, every single day or two, I get bombed. Chicken bones, rocks, buttons. It knows me, waits for me, targets me. Every time when I least expect it, something gross plumps on me from the sky. Stop it! Then, it tries to drop a steaming dump on me. Misses by just a hair, and I lose it. No! No, you didn't! Come here! Come down here! Come down here right now! Come here! Of course, right then, the neighbor opens her door, sees me screaming at the sky, and she shuts her door again. No, I'm not. It's this bird. I swear, the bird's out to get me. It's the bird! The bird! It's the bird.
So this is this girl
Playing Step Judgment.
bird.
No, it's the old lady next door.
Amazing stories from people, of course. When the jump
She opened the door, saw him yelling at the sky.
He's a crow that eats Kentucky Fried Chicken. A cannibal. I say yes.
What? It's just gonna fall again.
Let me.
Let's don't fix that.
Snap Judgment.
Look at it. Oh yeah! Did you see that? Left hook. Well, the left hook. Went around the calendar.
Now,
Landed
it began
on top of the nest.
May 1989.
Where can all
Brian
of this
Knob is
anymore?
about 40 years old. Living in North Carolina.
That was a 10.
He's got a great side hustle going. And I should let you know that this is a real situation. And the real people in this real story use real strong language.
Really two wheels.
See, what folk do is they call Brian's home phone and they ask Brian to come and shear their sheep. And this is the story of one of those calls. Brian, take it away.
shearing professionally for 4 years. I always like to work with animals. I've logged with mules and worked with draft horses. But the first time I smelled what a shorn sheep smelled like with that land on it. If you take much of the coconut smell away from Hawaiian tropic and mix it with like a honey nut and a vanilla smell, that's what it smells like. I was hooked. I came home and heard all the phone calls and messages. He says, that's how you found out about your prospective clients. They left messages. And there was this guy.
Hey, this is Dwayne Bagwell. I live in Harris. You probably don't even know where that is. I'm down here in Rutherford County, near the South Carolina border.
And when I heard this voice, I first thought it was Ross Perot.
Yeah, we got sheep everywhere. They're just hard to spot because they're all wrapped up in kudzu.
And it never stops. It goes on and on.
I had 2 sheep following my pond. They soaked up every bit of water.
That was the first message, because you know those old machines, you had a limit? Yeah, he ran the limit on his first call. And then as soon as you press the next call, it's like,
hey, it's me again. The fella down in Rutherford County with the 2-ton sheep.
And he said, shear 30-some sheep. Come on down.
You don't have to catch them. Just shear them. It's an easy job.
You get weird calls, and if you bail on them, you're not going to shear many sheep. Maybe he was just tired, maybe he was drunk. But I figured, what the hell? I'm shearing down that way anyway. So I called him back and set the shearing date. I went the next day. I sheared 2 farms before him, drove probably another 30 minutes, and I went to his place.
What?
It's dry. It's a creek.
And the farms are getting less and less attractive and developed, and you're starting to see broken down outbuildings.
Second or third.
So I drive up this lone, hard red clay road, and all of a sudden you come to a big black mailbox that's crooked with white goopy letters that says Bagwell, his last name. There was this man standing by a Jeep. This guy was in his 60s. If you took a stocky John Denver and you hit him on the head with a baseball bat and shortened his head and then gave him a really deep sunburn and chrome aviator glasses and a little toothbrush mustache and put a John Deere hat on him, that's Dwayne Bagwell.
Dwayne Bagwell. I gotta call this guy.
Mr. Bagwell? He says, I am. And I bet dollars a donut here the sheep shear. And I said, yes, sir. He said, Sir, don't call me sir. I was a sergeant. He asked me, where are you from, boy? And since I moved to North Carolina in 87 from Texas, I said, Texas. Big mistake.
Texas? You a Texan? That means you think you're pretty tough. Well, I'm pretty tough too, and I'll kill you.
And he pulls out a .38 pistol. He didn't point it at me, but it did irritate me. So I said, put that damn thing away or I'm gone. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm tough or cool. It's just living in the southeast, in particular the mountains of western North Carolina, there's guns everywhere. It'd be like me getting upset if someone lit a cigarette in the city. So he put the gun away, and he just, ha, 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 yeah, I was just funning you. I thought Texans love guns. Guns, bad steak, jalapeno peppers, and bars. I'll open the gates for you. So he seemed to calm down a little bit. Then I saw what the place where I was going to be shearing. He had used barbed wire, hog wire, old wooden pallets up and tied together to make this little paddock. It's about 100 by 100. This paddock that had a little storage shed, about an area as big as a pickup truck, and that was the sheep barn where he wanted me to shear. And I remember thinking, this is going to hurt. These were big sheep. And there's a condition of sheep called a scour, which is basically like a sheep diarrhea. So the sheep were green from like their stomach back over to their hindquarters and tail. And your imagination can now run wild what that would be like shearing that animal. And it was very, very hot. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I'm like, they can't throw that wool off. They will overheat and they will die. They need to be shorn, even though they're nasty. You have to shear sheep or they die in the southeast. Can I swear on a podcast? I thought So I walked over to that little barn and I set up my equipment when he walked into the corral to start, quote, catching sheep. I told him to bring the ram first. You start with the ram because they're usually the biggest, toughest, and the hardest to shear of a flock. So while you're fresh and strong and you've got all your combs and cutters in good shape, go bring me your worst case scenario. I'm busy setting up my gear, and all of a sudden I hear, and I hear gunshots. And I turned and looked, and there he was, running around this pen with a lasso and his pistol in the air, and he was panicking these sheep, who began to run in different circles and tangents and smack into the fence and into each other and jump over farm implements and tractor discs while this lone guy is running after them. And he actually snared the ram. He snagged it with the rope. And the ram pulled him like a water skier is pulled by a boat. He just went sailing around, kicking up dust all around. In any other context, I would have myself laughing. The ram doubled its body around and rammed that little ramshackle building and broke the planks of the siding. He ran at Dwayne Bagwell and knocked him down. It was smashing everything. It broke the fence, it broke into the side of his building, broke the siding down. I've sheared rams over 200 pounds. Never one that enraged. But ultimately, he got close enough to it to shorten up on the rope. He brought the ram to me so I could take my thumb and make a ring of your thumb and your first finger, pass it through the sheep's mouth in that space between the teeth, hold the head, tuck my hand under the tail, and now I got it. Now it's up to me. I flipped the ram onto the ground, and then the shearing was on. But he was still kicking and snorting and rolling around, and you know, it was like a ground fight, an MMA or something.
I guess maybe the practication where you were down the hill.
So Dwayne Bagwell,
on the corner.
I thought he would go and maybe get another sheep, right? But as I sheared the ram, he pulled this little chair from nowhere and sat on it and put his head right and lit a cigarette and then talked. Yeah, boy, that ram has a pair on him, don't he? Wish I had a set like that. By this time, I was in this almost non-verbal mode of get it done, survive this day, and that was pretty much my mantra. I was already soaked completely through, and this was only the very first sheep. I had 29 more to go. Hey Tex, tell me something. How come all the Texas boys but you got girly names? Sheep after sheep after sheep. Hey now, you ever hold the tip of your tongue and say cowboy's lasso? Try it. That kind of voice, there's something about it. This man would talk in his sleep, talk in my sleep, talk inside his coffin, talk inside my coffin. And he kept that up for 29 more sheep. And he put me good. If he'd had horns, I'd be singing the high parts in the church choir. Hell, I'd have you. I was going down, dude. I got dehydrated. My muscles started to cramp. Because you're upside down in a way, your head is lower than your waist. When you shear, your sweat runs into your eyes. And then there's no place to go when it cooks there. Your eyes are fiery red, and the salt crystallizes, so it looks like you look like margarita glasses you put on your eyes. And in fact, at one point, a vulture flew over me. I was kind of charmed, like, hey, they really do know when you're going to die. I mean, they said, that boy ain't going to make it. And I don't fault him at all. When I finally shut off the machine, it's hyper quiet. Hell, even he shut up. And we just looked out, and there they were. These beautiful white creatures that looked like Dr. Seuss creatures with the little whippy tails, and they were all happy. And the ram was standing looking at Is he gonna come back? Am I gonna get paid $90 for 4.5 hours?
That was it.
I was taking my equipment off and I couldn't unclench the nail that held that sort of gallows pole that held my shearing. So that's when I went in the shed to see why it was held up. And I saw these like shelves, and they had all these boxes. And the boxes said DuPont. And they were all filled with dynamite. With the nitroglycerin oozing out like the way you would squeeze a tube of glue.
Oh shit.
I was so tired, and that day was bad enough. And then to realize that a ram had been battering this little ramshackle building. Ram had been beating on it. I had been beaten with a hammer. And this guy had dynamite. I could have been blown to smithereens. And that's when my mind shut down. He did come back, gave me $100 bill at the end and said, yeah, I gave you 100 because them sheep were tad dingy. I didn't say anything. And he said, I'll see you next year. Nope.
You won't.
It was even hard for me to drive because I had a manual shift and my legs were starting to cramp and lock up. And I pulled on through the gate. I felt like why did you do that to yourself? Most people would have said, I'm gone. But I didn't. And sure, I could say, and the moral of that story is, you gotta ask for dynamite before that would be false. I couldn't say that I learned something about myself other than a capacity for pain or abuse or whatever. I'm still not sure why it happened to me, but I accepted. I was in my car and the reports of my body were telling me, you need to hydrate and you need calories or you're gonna crash this car. The first grocery store I came to, I pulled in. There were kids, they're playing, and there were teenagers, pretending to fist fight and punch each other, and they were flirting with a girl. When I stepped in, it all just came to a complete stop.
Probably looked like
Can you
shit.
imagine
Smell.
a human being walking into a grocery store who has got blood and manure and dark stained stuff all around his crotch and his waist, and he's sunburned, looks like he has salty eyeglasses on, and he smells like smell that you've never smelled in your life. I didn't even speak. I walked around the store. Yeah, I lied. I ran to the store trying to find sustenance. And so I went in the baby food aisle, twisted open like a lid, and stuck my tongue in it. I now had like banana, honey, cracker, root all over my face. But I didn't care. I was just sucking that stuff out of the jars and eating it, and then opening the next one. Of course I was going to pay for it. So then I'm walking down the aisle, eating baby food jars out of my elbow, and wondering why everyone was horrified, looking at me and pulling people out of the way as I walked up. And when I went to the conveyor to pay, I just dropped all these empty bottles on the conveyor belt. And then that's when the manager stepped up. He just had his arms folded, looked me up and down. Son, now what have you been into? And I said, I'm a sheep shearer.
That made me too hard, but that's me. Nobody would do that. Just people would say something. Maybe throw a damn fit. That's like, oh, please.
Finally now, thank you for telling your story. Ryan is a retired private investigator and sheep shearer. He's currently working on a collection of personal evidence. The original report for that story was by Lindsay Goyle. Mr. Cheese by David Exley. Now can we break our first ever backflip. Stay tuned.
Support comes from downtown Grand Junction, announcing spectacular and afternoon treating kids' activities, performances, and more on Main Street, 3 to 5 p.m. October 26th. Learn more at downtowngk.org.
Picking up more shit with the bare hand.
Looks like it.
single tree may stand 100 years. The clone may last
Are we
2,000.
over 20 tons?
Doing best on gravelly slopes and quickly filling in areas wildlife
Wait, go right.
bare. The wind blowing through Aspen sounds like nothing else in the forest. A soft rustle of green on a summer day, or a dry rattle in winter with most of the leaves gone. And black fissures on the white bark of an aspen reveal what else is natural. The marks of a bear, or deer, elk, or even shepherds alone in the high country a long, long time ago. A Colorado postcard from Colorado Public Radio. Welcome back to Snap Central, the bonkers episode. Now, I get to hand you off to comedy mastermind Chris Gethard. Chris, he's been on The Office, Broad City, but back in 2010, Chris taught at the UCB Theater in New York, and he called his class Rugby. And in addition to the class, his students performed live shows for audiences. So, you really feel that low center of gravity? Snap that. We're about to be lit up. There are some improv nerds in the world who still ask me about this parentheses class. A lot of it is because of this one night where this one thing happened, and it probably should never have happened. Okay, close your eyes and imagine in a small black box theater underneath a supermarket in downtown Manhattan. You and the rest of the audience have just paid a few bucks for a ticket and maybe a cup of wine. To see an experimental improv show. No games, no themes, no rules, no suggestions from the audience. Anything goes. Pretty early into it, Murph kind of calmly takes the stage, and he's got a lot of stage presence. He really commanded the energy, and he just kind of plainly puts it out there. Tell the audience, I'm going to try a standing backflip. I always thought a backflip was like a standing backflip. It was a cool thing that looked fun. Hi, I'm Murph Meyer. I was a student in Gethard's parentheses class. And the catchphrase about Murph PKB's got the mustache of a cowboy and the haircut of a samurai. With like a samurai ponytail and big mustache, and then dressed like one of the legends. White shirt, black tie, black pants. Murph's outfit, which seemed crazy when I first saw it, had a real purpose. The white shirt, the black tie, tucking into his black pants, was a ritual he had developed for himself, where every day he would wake up, button that shirt, and tell himself, you are not going to do heroin today. Tuck the shirt into his pants and say, you are not going to go find opiates today. Tie the tie and say, you're not going to fall into your bad habits again.
Listen, I was coming off of I had no money. Like I said, I'd just been getting off heroin, got off my hepatitis C medication because I got hep C from sharing needles when I was on heroin. So I was in a space where I was like, I got nothing to lose. Let me take this class. This will be fun. I don't know any of these people, or I don't know much about improv, technically, but this seems like a class that might be for me.
One of the things that we talked so much about in this class was the goal is not to have anarchy. The goal is to start with anarchy and be selective about what rules help us tonight.
I've never tried a backflip. A lot of great people growing up I've seen do a backflip, old friends of mine. I grew up with some wrestlers, high school wrestlers, not WWE stars. These are guys who could do backflips that I grew up with. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, that looks like really cool. But I just never tried it. I never even attempted it. So I thought, well, maybe now's a good time. It's like, how hard could it be? It might not look, perfect. I wouldn't get scored at the Olympics well on this, but it's something I could do, I thought.
And he just threw down the gauntlet in a clear way. I think tonight's the night that I nail my first standing backflip.
The reaction from everyone is concern, which I'm not expecting.
I think I was the only person in the group that had ever done a freestanding backflip, and I had just the tiniest amount of training. My name is Matt Mayer. I was a member of the parentheses class, and Murph just boldly walked out on stage and said that. Pretty quickly, they had 26 people getting up and going toward him like they're gonna flip him over with, like, pick him up and flip him over, because that'll be easy. And he was like, no, you don't do that. He's there going, I'm serious, I want to do this on my own. My thoughts on the chances that he would pull it off. At first thought, no way, and then was like, that's a thought you can't have, because then he won't think he can do it. And I think the safest way is for you to think he can do it and try to get him to be able to do it.
I was in the tech booth watching this as Murph was leading up to that backflip. I've never had an experience where, as the teacher of the class, I'm sitting there going, yes, this is a crystallized moment of everything we said that this could be. Yes, yes, yes. As a human being with empathy who doesn't want to witness tragedy, I was going, no. And those voices were really loud in my head at the same exact time. People get this. Some of that tension is the tension of this kid and bully, and some of the tension is this sort of immediate electricity, this immediate excitement of how cool would it be? How cool would it be to hear someone say, I always wanted to do a backflip, never tried.
Go Fat County.
If it works, how cool is that? So Murph starts kind of like stretching.
Just a brief run of calisthenics there. Just stretch my hands out a little. I was doing a little bit of that. Probably a little bit of the pumping myself up to try to really get that adrenaline. It's like if I might only need one more inch here, so I'm gonna just the adrenaline.
You said it's wonderful.
So I was pumping myself up a little bit.
Matthew Mayer takes the stage with Murph because I need to talk to you for a second.
I'm saying stuff like, you don't want to go backwards, you want to land where your feet were, so you got to remember to jump high and then rotate. A lot of people dump their back, and then you just land on your head.
Matthew Mayer says to Murph, so the thing about doing a backflip is that your body does not want to be heading in that direction.
I think it's like an instinctual reaction that your brain is like, don't do this, and then just sort of stops.
And that's where you get in trouble, when you go halfway. It's when you do stand back. You go all the way, or you don't go. And it was chilling to be in that. The whole crowd is feeling it. It is not too long after that intervention by Matt Mayer that the stage clears. It's just Murph, no spotter.
Because he doesn't want a spot. He doesn't want it.
He waves it off.
He waves it off. And then it's not, I'm not allowed.
Nobody standing by, is just a spotlight on Murph on the stage. And it becomes clear he's going for it.
I'm thinking I'm gonna pull this off 100%.
He squats down.
Murph goes up.
He gets hyped.
I'm in the air, I'm flipping, I'm moving. My vision, I'm seeing a little bit of the wheels turning there, so I'm like, all right, here we go. And I'm thinking when I'm in that moment in midair, I'm doing it. Because, I committed. From my perspective, I think I made it a full halfway around, so I was upside down.
And then he comes down.
And everything blurs, and then it's a crash and burn scenario.
Just slams on the ground from 3 feet in the air.
Kind of landed on my head.
The ground there is a very thin layer of plywood with cement under it. It's a basement theater.
And it's this big thud.
The room is not silent, certainly not laughing or clapping or cheering, almost a buzz of people talking, whispering to each other, gasps, and then quiet. I am in the tech booth and I am pretty convinced that I just taught an improv class where someone paid money and I watched them paralyze themselves as part of the improv class. I am just silent.
There's that sense at first. I wasn't even sure how bad it had failed or what had happened. I would only be able to liken it from my own experience to like a car accident. I went not all the way through the windshield once, but I got in a terrible accident where I kind of went through the windshield. It felt like that, just getting your bell rung, where it's like blackout, for a second. Let me get my bearings. Let me get, everything's like okay. And so that's kind of what it felt like. And so yeah, I think the adrenaline probably helped.
And it was one of the most tense experiences I've ever had in a live performance. Most of the rooms thought they witnessed something medically really bad happen. Most of the room thought they saw someone get severely hurt, if not beyond that. You do that once and then I think you shut the door on that as a performance style. But Murph got up.
I don't know what it is, but some strange instinct, instead of stopping the show and being like, call an ambulance, we continue the show.
I just remember kind of sitting off to the side, on the sidelines a little bit while people were kind of, rubbing my shoulders a little, looking me in the eye, being like, are you okay?
At some point it did end with the rest of the group lifting Murph up and physically putting him through the motion of a backflip so that he could feel the upside down nature and successfully do it.
Like each person grabbed a limb, and then I think Matt Mayer maybe guided the torso, the trunk around, and it was a slow-mo. We weren't ready. We were in no rush to get this done. We just needed the physical act of me completing a rotation and coming down on my feet.
And I think you can make an argument that him trying to do the backflip and waving off everybody who wanted to be a spotter was him going, I'm walking my own path, and then him finally letting them flip him over was them going, dude, you don't have to. You don't have to, doggedly insist on being alone in this anymore. We will help you. And then, I don't know if it's because he actually accepted the help or if he was just honestly concussed, but we did get to see him finally accept the help of the community.
Is that Diamond Pete?
That he was,
No, it's back behind
he had shown up
It's mine?
wanting to be a part of.
It's right behind us.
That's Heinz, right?
So it was wonderful to find your tribe, find your people, as they say a lot in there. Although
That's
the next day
Cedar Mountain
I'm
right
very
there.
sore.
Huh?
I said, that's Cedar Mountain right there, right by Craig.
Well, I remember seeing that. I just wondered where the others were. I got turned around and flipped up upside down listening to this story.
We're on the 18. We're going to hit 13 about 5 miles out of town.
I realized that. But I kind of got flipped around from listening to the story. My head's upside down right now. It's kind of, I think I'm not so bad, right? I'm surprised the guy lived through that.
Jersey is the world. Whenever you put your podcast, original score for this piece was by Renzo Gorio. The story was produced by Zach Rosen. With help from Jennifer Seal.
Colorado Public Radio serves the people of Colorado thanks to generous investments from the community, including from leadership partners. Thank you to the Mistler Family Foundation. Learn about philanthropic giving at CPR.org. I'm Jay Allison. Join us for more true personal stories told live on stage. No scripts, no notes, no nothing. Each Moth Radio Hour is a mix of funny and heartbreaking tales that captivate, surprise, and delight audiences around the world. Their honesty and bravery and humor. That's the Moth Radio Hour, PRX.
Saturday afternoons at 3 and again Sunday nights at 10 on CPR News and KRCC.
There are a lot of ways to support Colorado Public Radio. One is through workplace giving. Check if your employer is part of the program that lets you make a tax-deductible gift through a payroll deduction. Federal employee or military personnel, support through the combined federal campaign. Turn your workplace into a powerhouse of support for CPR.
This place looks different than in the wintertime.
Journalism and new and timeless music programming thriving. Learn more at cpr.org/support.
It's all dry. happened? They got
like
jumped?
an hour and a half into this chase, and I'm like, they haven't found us yet. They're not going to find us. At that moment, we see this guy emerge from the fog ahead of us, and he goes, "There they are!" We scattered, and I ran like a couple hundred feet, and I look over my shoulder, and somebody's just hit my friend Sylvia in the back, and she falls down, and then all of a sudden there's like 6 people around her. So I sprint, and I panic. If these guys find me, they're going to kill me. There's 2 of them, at least 2 of them, and there's only 1 of me. I don't stand a chance.
So, Malaclips has this idea. If he can't run, maybe he can hide.
I laid down on these rocks right next to the river, and I brushed a bunch of snow onto my back, and I let the snow fall on me. And I can hear their footsteps, and if I look to the side, I can see feet, but not much more. They had just been running, and they were kind of out of breath. I could hear talking about them. He was just here. Where is he? I just sit still in the snow. They eventually give up and go away. I look at my watch, and I realize 2 hours has passed. I could leave the game now.
He put on a small white headband, and instantly, Malaclips, the notorious anarchist and thief, changed back into being Dan Comstock, a Lincoln College sophomore with shoulder-length blonde hair and a big foam sword. Dan was a LARPer, a live-action role player. He'd go on long weekend retreats where everyone played along in these big fantasy come-to-life games. He had been so committed to it that he found himself alone in the snow in the middle of the night.
And the gravity of the situation slowly sinks in. And now I'm just a 19-year-old kid lost in the mountains in Pennsylvania. I realize I'm like really lost. It's now past sunset, and the snow has been falling. So I've only got like 100 feet of footprints, and then it's gone. I shout, "Help!" I ran and I ran and I ran. I just running and screaming. I just picked a direction and kept going. I start to lose hope. I'm gonna use like my last bit of energy to like climb up this big hill and see if I can see anything from there. I push my way through these like thorn bushes, and I make it up to the top of this hill, and it's like a big flat field. And on the far side of the field, I see a tiny farmhouse. I'm like, oh, civilization. I'm saved, I'm out of the woods. And so I walk over to this farmhouse. I was very conscious of that I'm dressed in this ridiculous fantasy outfit. I take off as much of my costume as I can without like shivering. I put my foam sword around the corner, and I take off my cloak. And then I took a big breath, and I knocked on the door. It was a Dutch door, and the top half of it opened. And I saw a woman in a very traditional looking blue dress and a bonnet. She was holding a candle. It took me a little while to process what I was looking at. And the first thought in my head is like, what did I run into? Another LARP? And then it hits me that I'm in Amish country. I was nervous. So I said, you know, I'm lost. I'm staying at this campsite near here. And could you just like point me back to where I need to go? She's like, oh my God, you're lost in the woods. That's terrible. She knew I was scared. Let me wake up my 2 of my sons, and they'll give you a ride back. So Stephen and Levi, get 2 strapping Amish lads about my age, get out of bed. They get on their clothes. They go out to the barn. They wake up the horse. They attach the buggy. They bring it out, and I get in the buggy with them, and then we start to go back. It's like a little wooden cab with 4 wheels. They have rubber tires on them, and we were sitting side by side in the front of this buggy, all 3 of us. They were wearing rimmed hats, and I'm wearing a black cloak with a hood and leather armor with studs on it. The horse had just been woken up, so he was a little cranky. I think they could tell that I had never been in a horse and buggy before, and they thought that was adorable. They were really polite, and they didn't really let on when they were teasing me. It was a little pointy. They were like, I've never been lost in the woods before. Were you scared? And it was really surreal, you know? Because I'm trying to talk to these Amish people. They're like, what were you doing in the woods? And I couldn't really explain it, you know? I was like, have you ever heard of a Renaissance fair? No. You ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons? No.
certain point. So we pulled up to the campsite into like a little fantasy village, and there are different groups of people. There are these dark elves with pointy ears and they have dark makeup, wizards who are wearing robes or, you know, and funny hats, rangers, you know, kind of dressed like Robin Hood a lot of the time with the kind of like pointed cap. As soon as I stepped in, my friend Don and my friend Alan, who was carrying the treasure chest, they were like, "There he is!" And everybody kind of cheered. Everybody was relieved. Everybody was worried about where I had been. They said, "Where were you?" And I said, "Amish country." I thanked Stephen and Levi very warmly. I gave them hugs. They seemed a little bit amused. They were looking around and weren't really sure what they were looking at, but they were happy I got to where I needed to go. I kind of got that sense too, like the next day they were going to be telling everybody, "We met the weirdest guy last night." My name is Malaclips. I'm a madman, a revolutionary in the world of Tyria, the continent of Avalon, in the kingdom of Evandar, in the duchy of Greyhorn. This is a land of order and chaos. Liches and death knights, vampires, werewolves. One of the werewolves is a baron and he rules part of Greyhorn.
Thank you, Dan Comstock, for the fantastic tale. Now, Dan's been organizing LARPing events for decades now. Even though Malaclips the Anarchist is retired, Dan only plays the hero now. Don't get lost chasing anybody, Dan. The original score was by Renzo Gordo, and that piece was produced by Jasmine Aguilera. What a show. If you missed even a moment, know the Snap Judgment Storytelling Podcast awaits your listening pleasure. More episodes than you can shake a stick at or walk the Shadowlands with our Evil Twin Podcast, Spook Stories about the things that go bump in the night, or Amazing Tales from the African continent from Mind Your Own from Peter Nyong'o, all available wherever you get your podcast. Snap Storytelling, rub it all over your body. It feels so good. KQED in San Francisco is Snap's Orbiting Hall of Justice. Snap is brought to you by the team that has never, not once, had to hide on a window ledge like what happens in every single sitcom ever made. Except, of course, for the producer, Mr. Mark Ristich, who's actually something of a window ledge connoisseur. Now there's Nancy Lopez, Pat Mesiti-Miller, Anna Sussman, Renzo Gorio, John Facile, Shayna Sheedy, Taylor Picott, Flo Wiley, Bo Walsh, Marissa Dodge, David Exman, and Regina Bediaco. And this is not the news. No way is this the news. In fact, your neighborhood jerk crow could bully you for years on the slide. And your neighbors and friends could universally take the crow side in your ongoing dispute, and you would still not be as far away from the news as this is, but this is PRX.
That's a pretty good story. Trucks use CR-183.
This is CPR News, 89.5 FM KPRN Grand Junction, 88.3 FM KPRH Montrose, 88.3 FM KPYR Craig, and at CPR.org.
Support comes from the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus, sharing the latest on healthcare research, education, and patient care. Health science news and features at news.cuanschutz.edu.
So my junior year of college, I studied abroad halfway across
DC. And about 4 months into my time in Nepal, he was turning 21. And I thought, what could I send my boyfriend from halfway across the world that, like, over the internet, that would make us feel closer together?
Next up, the Moth Radio Hour. I'm your host, Michelle Jalaski. In this hour, stories of the startling and astounding. A birthday gift gone awry, a heated Twitter feud, a shocking phone call, and other unexpected surprises.
When I was 38 years old, I got an email from a lady with an adoption agency. My adoption agency. She was looking for someone with my name. I felt skeptical. Was this a scam?
That story and more coming up next on the Moth Radio Hour from PRX right after this.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Janine Herbst. 3 days after Hurricane Milton slammed Florida's west coast, residents are still having a hard time finding gasoline. Sky LeBron from member station WUSF has more.
Autumn Boyd says she's been waiting 2 hours to fill up her tank on her 3-gallon motorcycle.
I had to use PTO in order to be here. And I've just been using my vacation hours to sit in line.
Andrew Thomas says he's been waiting 5 hours to get gas. He says finally getting to the pump will be a huge relief.
It's gonna be like riding on a roller coaster. Once you
get
waited
to the pump
in
and there
line
ain't
for
no
all that
gas
time,
left.
5 minutes of good joy. And then halfway during the week, you're gonna be like, I gotta do this all again.
Governor Ron DeSantis announced the state has opened 3 fuel depots in the region to help meet the demand and plans to open more. Residents can get up to 10 gallons of free gas at the depots. For NPR News, I'm Sky LeBron in Tampa.
Vice President Kamala Harris released a report on her medical history this morning. Her campaign sees it as an opportunity to contrast the 59-year-old Democratic nominee with 78-year-old Donald Trump. NPR's Asma Khalid has more.
This is the first time Harris has released a medical report. Harris's medical summary concludes she is in, quote, excellent health, and possesses the physical and mental resiliency to successfully execute the duties of the presidency. It also indicated she has seasonal allergies, takes vitamin D supplements, and wears contacts. The Harris campaign sees the release of her medical report as a way to focus attention on how little is known about the health of Trump, who is 78. Last year, Trump released a brief note from his doctor who said his overall health was excellent and, quote, his cognitive exams were exceptional. On Saturday, a Trump spokesperson said that remains the case. Asma Khalid, NPR News.
Meanwhile, Trump is attending the Hispanic Roundtable near Las Vegas, and later he heads to a rally in Coachella, in Southern California. Harris campaigns in Greenville, South Carolina, tomorrow. President Biden is calling on Israel to stop hitting UN peacekeepers in its strikes in Lebanon. The UN says Israel has repeatedly fired on its peacekeepers. UNIFIL has 10,000 soldiers from 50 countries monitoring the border between Lebanon and Israel. NPR's Jana Raff has more from Beirut.
The incidents include Israel positioning tanks just a few yards away from UN peacekeepers, opening fire on a UNIFIL observation tower, collapsing that tower. Israel says it was targeting Hezbollah nearby. UN soldiers were injured in the attacks.
NPR's Jana Raff. Israel told UNIFIL to move back from the ceasefire line, but UNIFIL is there to act as a deterrent. This week, an Israeli strike in Lebanon hit an apartment building, killing more than 20. This is NPR.
No, it was
New research is shedding fresh light on the connection between young adults' success in college and careers and the kinds of learning opportunities they had as children. NPR's Corey Turner has more.
Researchers have long known that childhood poverty creates barriers that can last a lifetime. But findings from a 26-year longitudinal study help explain why. Researchers studied children growing up at various income levels, and they tried to measure their access to different opportunities, especially educational opportunities. Things like early childhood care, high-quality classrooms, and organized after-school activities. And the study found lower-income kids, in general, have access to far fewer opportunities than higher-income children. And that opportunity gap is strongly linked to a later gap in college attainment and earnings. Corey Turner, NPR News.
More than 4,300 hotel workers in Boston, San Francisco, Seattle, and Honolulu are on strike today. It's all part of a wave of hotel strikes that started on Labor Day. And while the affected hotels, which include Hilton, Hyatt, and Westin, do remain open, some of the services have been curtailed. Meanwhile, more than 700 employees at the Hilton Hotel in San Diego returned to work after a 38-day strike. The union at that hotel came to a new labor agreement that includes improvements to workers' wages, health benefits, and staffing. I'm Janine Herbst, and you're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Joyce Foundation, committed to advancing racial equity and economic mobility for the next generation in the Great Lakes region. Learn more at joycefdn.org. This is NPR.
From PRX, this is the Moth Radio Hour. I'm your host, Michelle Jalowski. As a kid, I remember being surprised all the time. I had my mind blown on a regular basis. But as I get older and arguably more jaded about the world, the less things seem to shock me. But surprises are important. They add curiosity and wonder and excitement to the world. Surprises make us vulnerable. They make us say, I didn't know this would happen, or I was not prepared for this. But if we knew everything all along, how interesting would life be really? In this hour, stories of surprises, good and bad. Our first story, shared at one of our open mic story slams in Pittsburgh, where we partnered with public radio station WESA, definitely made life interesting for our storyteller. Live from the Rex Theater, here is Jessie. Last name redacted to protect the innocent.
Hello. So my junior year of college, I studied abroad halfway across the world in Kathmandu, Nepal. And my boyfriend at the time was in Washington, D.C. So we had never been apart for this long before. We were trying to keep in touch via email and shoddy phone connections. And about 4 months into my time in Nepal, he was turning 21. And I wanted to sort of do something special so that we could kind of feel closer together. And I thought, what could I send my boyfriend from halfway across the world that, like, over the internet, that would make us feel closer together, you know? And so my Nepali roommate, who had probably never held hands with a boy before, we lived in like a 5x10 room together, went out of town about 2 weeks before his birthday. I very handily used the cell timer on my camera to take some choice photos, and I put them in a hidden folder on my computer. Now, for those of you who don't regularly use hidden folders, this is a mechanism whereby you can have an invisible folder on your computer, so when you don't want people to see it, they can't. It's very clever. And I put the photos in the hidden folder. About a week later, his birthday